Let's call this special meeting of the Hinckley Township Board of Trustees to order on Tuesday, April 11, 2023 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing and voting on the non-union employee handbook, editing the water extension letter, and meeting with the fire chief to discuss replacing the tanker. Let's call the roll. Here.
Here.
Also present are the fire chief and his assistant at hand. Ms. Foster, Kathy Wood, and one member of the public. So.
Thank you guys for letting me go first and meeting tonight. As you guys believe all know, we did try applying for a federal grant through a grant writing company. That the grant writing company was successful in getting us the air pack grant, but the vehicle acquisition grants are the harder grants to get. So we have to look at spending the money and purchasing a tanker on our own. Just a brief backstory. We have not always had two fire engines and a tanker. Bill Horton bought one in '99, the one that we sold and replaced almost 3 years ago. Bill Horton built that to be a small wheelbase engine to make it up our long driveways that we have. And that's why I replaced it with was a long wheelbase engine. So, and we have not been using on the second page, just so I reference, the middle picture is the backup engine. The top one is our current tanker, and the bottom one is what we're looking to replace. So the middle engine, the middle picture there, it's been sitting idle. We've been using it when the other engine's down. We haven't been able to fully outfit it because we didn't have the air packs at the time to run it. Well, we don't need two engines. This one's just sitting there. We're kind of using it now just to force ourselves to use the apparatus. The tanker is at 31, 32 years old now. And we've been having problems with it as you know, wear and tear. Chief Potts put about $35,000 into it 8-10 years ago on some maintenance stuff and kind of brought it up with electrical and wiring and pumps and all that stuff. But we're a different department than we were when the second engine was bought. What I'd like to do is go ahead and condense down to having what's on the first page as our primary engine and combining the tanker and the engine into one tanker pumper combo that will meet and exceed our needs for the future of the fire department. We are building this truck as a 20 to 30 year truck on it. It is outfitted. It would be outfitted just as our engine, so they can be ran simultaneously, which are ran at alternating, so we can continue to run them. Because if we don't run them, the diesel engines are sitting there rotting. These engines are made to run and be used, and that's our problem. We have two fire trucks that can. We only need one.
And can you share with them also what you told me yesterday about the diesel? Like, it's not just running it around the block.
No, the manufacturers are telling we should be taking these vehicles because we're not a very busy department. We should be considered driving them on the highway down to Lodi, turning around and come back. And that's a hard feat to try and accomplish with getting, having somebody come in. So we try and run them. So if we can drop down to two fire apparatus, it'll be easier to drive and continually run them. So we looked at a couple of different options. If we went with an option just to replace the tanker as is, make it a two-door, but make the body look like what's on the two bottom pictures there. We don't have enough hose to do it, so we'll have to buy hose. We'll have to buy equipment to outfit the truck and all that. If we condense down to one, we're just going to have to buy a couple miscellaneous pieces and parts that we need to outfit this truck to be a tanker pumper and be able to ran simultaneous and used on alternating months and mutual aid. Tankers in the area are extremely important. When we had the golf course fire, we had 7 tankers at that fire. So it doesn't just affect our community, it affects the whole region, so to speak, on it. The training, the maintenance, the cost. So that's why another reason I want to drop down to one, so we don't have all this maintenance costs and having 3 trucks opposing to have 2 trucks. Training, hose testing. Hose testing is typically per truck is about 24 man hours of hose testing a year that we do ourselves. And we know the maintenance is about $2,000 plus a year for the annual maintenance costs of the trucks, and then the wear and tear and the brakes, breakdowns and all that. So having the two set up so that if one does go down for maintenance, we have another vehicle identical that can roll out right away and be effective. So we met with six manufacturers, and the price range has been anywhere from $700,000 to $950,000. I met with Martha last week. The $700,000 truck does not have all the needs. When we start pricing it out, when I talk to the salesman, it jumps right up to about $740,000, $750,000. The tanker, the drawing I drew you is a tanker that is slotted to be completed in January, February. So it's kind of ready to go. We met with that salesman and kind of made some adjustments on things to see what it was. It came out to $741,248, I believe is what it was. We met with Pierce. They were a $900,000, 18 to 24 month delivery time. Four Guys which is made our current tanker. They're $790,000. They're 18 to 24 months, but they're not on Sourcewell. Suffin is anywhere from $875,000 to $975,000, 18 to 24 month delivery. Rosenbauer is 24 months at $800,000. Spartan is $1,800. They're the one that is the 2,000 gallon tanker, and we're looking at $2,500 from HME. They're $700, but when you start doing all the add-ons, it jumps up to almost the same price. I've looked at selling what the retail is right now. It's hard to say, but I've gone on to GovDeals and looked at the past year. I spoke to GovDeals. They told me how to do that. And I've looked at the largest fire truck broker, a used fire truck broker in the United States. Currently, there's two tankers that sold in the last year that are almost identical to ours, that sold for anywhere from $32,000 to $35,000. The engine that I would like to sell, it only has 18,000 miles on it. And those engines have been going from, I've seen them go from 85 or listed, either sold or listed from $85,000 to $150,000. I met with Martha because Martha was the key for the first meeting, just to see, is this feasible? She's got to check some things because we got the final quote because I didn't know it was right around that $700 to $750 range. But long-term, this is going to begin saving us money with dropping down to two and not have all the maintenance costs and operation cost of having the three trucks and just having the two trucks. We are looking for this to be a long-term 20 to 30 year truck. The one that we would like to go with has a large 525 horsepower engine, and it has the amount of well over the torque that we need to drive that weight up these hills in Hinckley.
Is this a diesel?
It is a diesel. Yes. They don't make gasoline in these.
You can't do
Yeah.
gas for fire apparatus.
One manufacturer tried and it didn't last long.
No.
We've been having that conversation.
Ambulance is a different story.
Yeah, and we are looking at ambulance because we're coming up on the 12-year. I'm trying to get these vehicles spaced out at a time. The engine that we replaced and bought 3 years ago almost is a 15 to 20 year truck. This one we're planning on a 20 to 30 year truck. So that's kind of the information I've gathered. Like I said, we've met with numerous manufacturers, talked to them, talked to some of the departments that purchased these trucks. Spartan, the one that I said that would have to add stuff, he said next week there's already going to be another price increase on it. Some of these places are like, we can only give 1 month quotes because the dynamic changing environment that I think is extremely crazy on this.
The other thing in talking with all these different manufacturers, I've numerous salesmen, they've all said that 2026, there's going to be new emissions guidelines that are being placed. And Cummins, who does majority of the motors for these fire apparatus, is going to take 2 of their diesel motors and combine it into like a hybrid one. And they're expecting that price increase on that just to be $65,000. in 2026 when they go to this new engine. So that in 2 years, we're looking at at least another $65,000 price increase across the board on fire apparatus.
If we replace the tanker, if we kept with the current configuration, the tanker, that tanker is about 450,000. In 5 to 6 years, we'd have to replace that other engine. And those engines right now are $650 to $800, $900,000. There was recently a department out on the east side spent almost $1 million on a fire truck, which is crazy.
So you're looking to retire these top two?
The top two, yes, sir.
And what's the age on those?
The top one is 31, 32 years old, and the bottom one is 19 years old.
Then just for public that might be zooming in, what's the life expectancy on this tanker?
The new one we're planning it for 20 to 30 years.
What is the old life expectancy? Because because you said ours was how old?
31, 32 years old. It's 92.
Ours is beyond this life.
Yeah. Chief Potts put that $35,000 in to extend it. Typically, NFPA says 20 years. You can do some upgrades at around the 20-year mark to bring it, up to a newer standard. If we move forward with this, the middle picture, I would start looking to sell that and put it on gov deals soon. So we could potentially get that money back to us as soon as possible. The tanker, we do have to hold on to till it, but being able to have the engine sold before that 20-year mark does give some value. A couple years ago when we had the incident with the light tower, we actually, the light tower being damaged was actually a benefit to us because we had so many problems with that light tower. We end up changing all the lights to LED from the old school halogen lights, and that actually increases the value of that truck as well. Most of the trucks, when I've been looking on gov deals or that broker, don't have all the LED lights that this one has.
And just to be clear, Chief, I just want to
Sure.
make sure everyone understands exactly what we're looking at is your number one choice, this tanker, which you just got this updated quote. from
Yeah,
them
yesterday.
for
Yep.
$741,248.
Mhm.
That is hard pricing that we can.
Yeah,
we can
they,
send to the
yep,
prosecutor, that is
Yep.
not changing.
yep,
And that is also with everything that you added onto
Yes.
this, so that it would be exactly what we want.
Yep.
To meet
The
our
other
needs.
one, the other one that's $700,000 that is not built.
no,
With the
so that
fact
one
that you
short does
want-
not have the it's only 2,000 opposed to 2,500 gallons. It only has one chute off the rear. And then the upgraded lighting package, the electrical outlets, all the other things that we need to put on there. And the other actual safety situation is on that 200 or that 2,000 gallon tanker, to get up to the hose bed is just steps. You have to kind of climb up there. The one on the bottom has a ladder that kicks out and actually gives you a climbing angle for the safety to climb up top there. And then on that 2,000 gallon one, we would have how we dump the water. It has to dump off in 90 seconds to 2.5 minutes. The one we're looking at actually has a chute on each side and the rear. Most of the time we use the one on the sides. The 2,000 gallon one, they would have to add a swivel so it can go off either side. Well, the ladders are dead center of that, so it sticks out about 30 plus inches. So now we have guys reaching over to try and get the ladders out, which is a twist hazard. It delays time if we have to actually use the ladders for a rescue.
So that's the one that they're gonna have a price increase on next week.
Yes, yep,
And we are not comparing apples to apples.
No.
The 700,000 versus
No.
the 741,000. That price would automatically go up.
yes,
And we said yesterday, at least by 20,000.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Because that was what happened to the 741,000.
yes,
It went up because when you added in the lights and everything that you needed to add in to make that what we
Correct.
need, that's what it went up
correct.
to.
And that's not even to find out how much it would increase to build have the bigger engine in it. And then it was like, it's almost $10,000 to go up the 500 more gallons. So you're getting very close to being very, pricing, you're going to be almost spot on with it. And the other,
Already
the,
in 7 months.
yeah,
versus-
exactly. That's the one bigger selling because they're saying that they're having problems finding parts of that tanker because of the age. And I know, as I spoke to Martha today with the hard price, she does have to go look at some things, and she would know by next week at the meeting if this is potentially doable. We had a good conversation, right, Martha? Did I say that right? Okay, on that. But that, I wanted to give you that update. That is the goal. I think long-term, this will begin saving us money. I understand it's a huge sticker shock. Trust me, it was when we sat down and looked at this. But I don't think, we don't need 3 trucks. We need 2. We need 2. We can rotate them. We can use them. It'll be more efficient for the operations of our fire department, just in the training, because we have to make our guys train in 3 trucks now when we can train on 2. And in fact, the pump on our current truck is going to be almost 100% identical to the pump on the new tanker pumper.
So what is, the demand now? What has it been maybe like for the last year, just so we understand the value of what it is that we're going to sell? I mean, is it beneficial to think that they may be worth more in another 12 to 18 months, or?
I think from looking online, Sean found the 2 tankers at the 30-plus-year-old tankers that sold for 30 to 30,000. I think there is still a very good value because of the current situation for smaller departments, the really rural ones that don't have the funding. They can buy these. They fix their own trucks, not recommended by the NFPA standards, but they'll fix them and they'll run them. Our tanker, we have to have it so it can pump. So, because that's what most of the departments do around here, where when you get in the rural setting, they just may dump the water into the big pond, the big porta swimming pools that we use, and they don't have to worry. They use another pumper to draft out of that and pull the water out. So there's a good chance that we should be able to get what I'm expecting of the 30-ish thousand and close to that $100,000 mark on there. It's still, anyone that had the low teens for mileage had a high resale value that I found. The ones that I found were similar, that were going for next to nothing, had 100 to 250,000 miles on them. And that's crazy for a fire truck in 20 years old, being a 20-year-old truck. So there is some good value because of the state of delivery time, the pricing and everything, where some of these departments aren't going to be able to do it. When we sold that engine 2 years ago, I was told by some of the repair places, you're going to get 12 to 15. We got almost 25,000 out of it from a department in Southern Ohio. So I really think there's a good chance we have a good, and I'm going to look at that engine, selling it, selling it at 90,000. I'm going to look at the starting bid at 90,000.
For that, even for that engine, there's even a market like for, even like urban areas, cities that are in like a fiscal emergency, stuff like that, that can't afford purchasing a $700,000, $1 million fire engine. I can tell you where I work full-time, for a while, we were actually looking at used fire engines to purchase because we could not afford a new fire engine. So there's a market out there for this stuff. And especially now with, like, I can tell you, like, couple of these manufacturers now for fire engines, they're saying, hey, we're not taking orders because, for one, the cost of parts and trying to acquire parts is just ridiculous, and they're putting a hold on orders for some stuff. So you're going to start seeing more departments that might be looking at used apparatus.
I just want to make sure that I have my numbers accurate. I have 32 to 35,000 for one of them.
For that, the old tanker, yes.
100,000 for the other. But you said
Potentially, yeah, it's going to be right around there. I would start the 90,000 on that engine, and that tanker, I'm probably going to start about 25,000.
You said the range.
Yeah, the range. Yep.
85,000.
Yeah,
100,000.
And the tankers that we looked at, our tanker is in the low 30,000 mile range. So still has low miles, which is good. And what I've been told by talking to the service department that has done little maintenance on stuff, that tanker would probably sell even more once they know what style engine it is. It is actually designed to be an over-the-road truck. So it has a big engine and it has the power that some of these guys are going to like because of them being diesel heads and everything else. I mean, those rural departments jump on those big power engines because of that,
So
working
what
on
would
them.
you start the bid on?
That
Yeah.
25, I would start at 25,000 on that tanker. Because we had, I forget how many bids we had on that engine, but it was a bidding war the last 20, 30 minutes on that engine.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
from my background, safety forces, redundancy is king.
Mhm.
Going from 3 pieces down to 2. You take one out of service, what does that do to you?
We have the one, whatever one's out of service, the other one is 100% matching in every way, except for one will just have more water than the other one. Our current engine has 1,000 gallons. This new one is being a tanker pumper, will have 2,500 gallons. But we looked at that and it'll have our high rescue tools on it. It'll have all the tools that have all the air packs, the communication equipment. The tanker will have a little bit different pumping equipment or fittings because it being
But you would
it's
lose
a-
another piece. Should, if one is out of service and you need a second piece,
yes.
So if you look at the picture of our current tanker right now, right now we could realistically, we could run with just that tanker and an engine out of our department, but the current tanker doesn't hold enough hose at all. It does not have a hose bed up top or anything. That it's a rounded tank and that's it. We have a couple hand lines up in the middle and that's it. So that's why this consolidating to this, you're getting the amount of water for that. Actually, you're getting more water than what our current tanker holds. Plus you're getting all of the hose that our backup engine has.
I reached out to other fire chiefs to run this by. Grange is looking to do pretty much the same thing. Lodi went from having 4 trucks down to 2 trucks. They were able to get 2 just completely identical trucks. When I talked to Valley City's chief, he goes, that makes sense in our current environment of how our departments are working. So we assessed it because it was a concern to go, hey, we are losing it. But the fact that both trucks will be able to operate as one another minus the water configuration, we will have it. If one goes down, the other one can do everything that the other one can do.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Because I asked some similar questions. The problem is that regardless of the decision on this apparatus, we have to buy another tanker. And then what happens in 5-6 years, we're looking at a $1.4 million likely engine replacement. We don't have that. So this is a great opportunity to get a fine piece of equipment that will service the township. Because I don't want to be looking down the road in
No.
6 years. Like it won't be me. But I don't want anybody looking down the road in 6 years and having to figure out, we may be buying a used engine.
Yeah.
So that's,
my other question would be,
consideration.
considering the age of this equipment, has there been bank done to replace equipment? So are we in that position?
has there been what?
Has funds been banked?
Well, we constantly do that. We have a replacement program and we talk all the time about,
Well, I'm looking at
Years and-
30 years old, there should be money for that one right now.
well, no, we're constantly buying equipment, Jack. We're buying
No, I understand.
ambulances, we're buying new engines. And so the money there's always a reserve of money that doesn't get appropriated over the course of how many years.
Hmm.
And it's always for these big purchases. Now, that's why I can't give you guys a solid answer until next week, because I knew we were going to look at a tanker. The tanker is less expensive than what this unit is. So I have money reserved for a tanker this year. Well, now we're increasing that. So now I have to look at, see how much I did not appropriate and then do a second amended appropriation.
Well, don't get me wrong, I like the idea of
Yeah.
increasing utility. I mean, it makes perfect sense to do that.
But we constantly, we talk some years, I would have to say usually it's now with the new levy, it's gonna change, it's gonna increase, but traditionally I will hold back about 300,000 every year.
Yeah, there's
and
always.
not appropriated.
And there will be, when we purchase a truck, there will be some equipment that has to be purchased that we don't have now, or that it's old and it needs to be replaced, and the mounting of the tools is going to be minimal because this new engine actually, or the tanker engine, already has a lot of mounting brackets on there. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to come over with us, which we're lucky on, opposed to just doing status quo and replacing, where the new tanker, if we went with a two-door tanker, we got to buy thousands of feet of hose.
Yeah, and there's an ambulance right behind.
Yeah, yep.
And so just for your understanding, Jack, in 2017, I know we were saving for the engine we purchased in 2020. And this consolidation was something that Chief and I discussed back in 2020. So it's been planned that we would have to save. for
It's been a going
apparatuses.
back and forth on, did we want to keep status quo or did we want to condense it? And the pricing on everything is like, let's condense it, let's squeeze the trigger, let's start saving the money now, long term.
Well, and on top of that, even with the cost, like maintenance costs now on apparatus, with the inflation on parts and everything, like you keep dumping parts into a reserve engine that's just sitting, collecting dust and goes into service only when our new engine goes up for brakes or its annual PM. That's the only times it's really, in order to go get warranty work. Other than that reserve engine was, sitting there, our guys would take it out for training and stuff, but that was about it. Because we don't have, we don't have the manpower to run both apparatus at the same time. It was, we have the 3-man staff, so we're taking a 3-man crew with that. So now with consolidating, I would say on an average, we were probably spending $5,000 a year just for the maintenance of each apparatus. So over the 20 years that we are going to consolidate and do away with an apparatus, that's, that's $100,000 over 20 years that we could save by consolidating with that.
That's a good point. And then what's our schedule for the engine, or I mean, the ambulance?
The ambulance, the oldest one's going to be looking at the end of this year into next year. Then that's a minimum 2-year replacement time on it. And we're looking at gasoline on that because those diesel Fords are having nothing but problems.
Ambulances
And
again,
that-
they're,
and that's somewhat,
I'm sorry?
and that purchase is unlikely.
ambulances are 3 years out also, just like fire apparatus. Brunswick Hills, they ordered an ambulance in 2020, and just a couple months ago, they had posted on Facebook that it was finally on the production line, so.
Well, if you're in California, it'd have to be electric.
Yeah, I got a electric fire engine there. I'm probably.
You don't want to know how much that electric fire.
Yeah.
Well, Chief, I know you have to get going.
Mhm.
You have another
Meeting with the sheriff. Yeah.
But I do want to thank you for all of the work that you put into this.
Thank
I
you.
told you yesterday, I was very impressed with the research that you did on this. You had a lot of options for us to
Mhm.
look at. And I want to thank you for all your work on it. Does anyone have any unanswered questions?
Can I just say something about, because this was something Jess and I talked previously
Sure.
and then today about. Until the money is there, you cannot make any motion. So we transfer, reappropriate, figure it out. It doesn't matter if the apparatus is not going to arrive until next year. When you make the approved resolution to purchase, the money has to be there. So, it always have those conversations. Well, we're not gonna get it until 2024. No, it doesn't work that way. We have to have the money to sign the contract now. So that's gonna take some moving around. I wanna see what your staffing, what your
Sure.
payroll is with the windstorms.
Yeah.
That's gonna impact,
Mhm.
that line before anything gets moved around. So.
Can he send this to the prosecutor though?
I mean, he can send anything to the prosecutor he wants. but
Just to
there's no-
review for the source well product, the process.
So just so we don't
It's a long
lose any
process.
time
Yeah.
on that, well,
Yeah, you can. I don't know if it's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna take an amended certificate after
Okay.
they sell the engine. I don't know.
Mhm.
Because there's not a tremendous amount of wiggle room
Mhm.
to cobble together that much money under your equipment line.
Okay.
Or motor vehicle.
Mhm.
But, I mean, I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
I just.
Thank you.
wanted to be honest.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Jack, I did make some phone calls about the maintenance too and all that. I did, so I'll let you know on that. Found some interesting stuff.
Have a wonderful evening. On to
You
the next
too.
meeting,
On to the
right?
next meeting. Yep.
It's
Down to the
three-
sheriff's
three
office in
today.
the corner. Yeah.
We've
three.
only had two.
No, I won't. Nope.
Let's get the water letter out of the way.
I presented you both with a letter that a resident sent me as an adaptation as to what they would like to see as the water letter. It's just for you to review and maybe consider some more language.
Is that this?
Is this one out? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just printed the hard copy again of ours. This is the one, again, that county engineer gave his final approval on, was the one that I had sent out originally in March.
Oh, I have it.
I'm going to share my screen so the people in the audience can read it, or
Yeah, that'd be
Sure.
great.
Mr. Crowell's curious.
I'm
confused. Are you looking at two letters?
We are.
We are.
I don't have.
And this is the
co-hosts.
first one?
That, yes,
A
that was,
March letter?
yeah. Yeah, that's what I set out the copies
Right.
of.
You proctoring?
Sent out to who?
I could pass this around if you, I mean, you guys could.
Is that the second one?
This is the second one.
Yeah.
When did you send that one?
Get it back for the packet.
Pardon me?
When did you send that one?
This one I got from a resident. I just sent this.
I'm struggling to.
Did you send it to us too or no?
No, she gave you.
I gave you a copy.
That's it.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to find it.
Sharon's like, I'm sitting here waiting, it's right in front of you.
I have too many files open. So for the people that are on virtually or here in the audience, this is the letter that a resident created, and it just has kind of a different spin on it. And I thought it was worthwhile to share in doing our due diligence and have a conversation about the letter. Need to make it bigger. Whoa.
If you want, I can just make copies of this for each of you if you would like to copy.
I wouldn't mind a copy, but
If you tell me when, I'll scooch it.
Pardon?
If you tell me when you're ready, I'll scooch it up.
I'd say that the difference in the two, and this one gets to the point, this one, there's a lot of, I think, commentary in here that doesn't need to be in here.
And there are definitely some adaptations that I would recommend on both of them, but I didn't want to not share it with you. I thought
Well, can we start by saying this? Looking at the letter that Jeremy Cinco and I created, can we talk about what changes we would like to see on that? And please correct me if I am wrong, if we're not all on the same page here. The purpose of this is to send it to the county, right? Because we want to see if the county is going to, if there's a big enough response rate, will the county consider adding this to their plan and proceeding as an assessed project? That was the understanding that I had taken from that November meeting and when we last discussed this. Is that a safe assumption for you both?
I just feel like we've had conversations about so many different avenues for water infrastructure that I don't feel that an assessed project is the only option.
For this, it is. The county said that they could not entertain this unless it was an assessed project.
We've had conversations about grant opportunities. We just had Bethany come in to the last meeting, have a conversation about a TIP opportunity. There are other avenues for water infrastructure. I just don't know that the timing of this is appropriate.
As far as the county participating, this needs to be done to see if they'll even put it on their schedule.
But I guess that's what I'm saying is if we were to utilize the TIP, for instance, really how much is the county going to be involved in that? Would it be an
That
agreement
would be
between the
a-
township and a developer?
That would be a developer installing that line on their own.
Well, that would be, there's an agreement between the township and the developer. That's what Bethany said here. The county really isn't involved at that point.
The county has to approve the TIF. County would have to approve that. And historically, those go to underdeveloped areas that are looking to bring business into where people won't invest in those areas unless there's some incentive to do so. So there is criteria for creating the TIF. It's not automatic.
Well, we meet the criteria for a TIP, which is why Bethany was
I
encouraging us.
wouldn't be certain about that.
Well, I just feel like we need to explore those options.
And that doesn't preclude exploration of that, but this, in order for the county to consider putting it on their schedule, there has to be enough interest for them to even consider it. And that was the purpose of this, was to say, you know, an example is the lowest cost option, $2 million. These would be the costs associated with that. Is there anybody willing to sign up at that cost?
Right, that's how I
If you
took
had a
it.
TIF or somebody else who's doing something else, those numbers are gonna change, but for the county to do it as an assessed project, which is how they had indicated that they would proceed on it, this is what has to be done.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that I feel that there are other options to explore. Other than an assessed project.
Well, this one speaks to an assessed project, as I go forward with this letter, to at least get the counties some information so that they can make an informed decision.
I feel comfortable proceeding with this letter only because this was the one that the county engineer gave his approval on. If we're looking at this being an assessed project, I think the county should absolutely have a say in what the letter says, since we're referencing them.
Absolutely, but like I said, I think there are other ways besides an assessment.
And there is a paragraph in there it's talking about the possibility of a grant, if any grants are awarded. But just as the consultant said, there's no guarantee of any.
Well, we talked publicly about a failure to respond to this letter being considered a no to the request. I don't agree with that term.
I think should be added to that sentence is should be considered a no by Ontario County. Because they're the ones tabulating the results.
Well, if it's a county letter, why is it coming from Hinckley Township?
Because we're the ones that are making. the
We're
request
asking for it.
for the
Okay,
information.
so where are we asking, what line are we asking? Which direction? Option A, B, or C? Who is this letter being sent to?
Good question.
Well, I think you have in there, please complete the attached document, which is the information from the county, correct?
Correct.
You have the county application that you're sending out with this letter. It's the second line on the final paragraph.
And it's going to Hinckley Township. The responses are coming to Hinckley Township. Why would they go to the county?
Why don't you change that? That's an easy change.
If we have questions, they should be contacting the county. Okay. I think there are better ways to handle this. I'm not in favor of this letter.
The only change I would make is in the, and I don't have to say on this, but just reading it is the second to the last paragraph. Township is currently researching grant opportunities that would lower the cost. I think you should put may lower the cost. There's no guarantees of it, you know. I think you're safer saying may.
Are we gonna talk about how the assessment works? I mean, if we say it's an assessed project, and that these are the fees, but what does the assessment look like over what type of time frame?
Said which could be placed on the property tax over 20 years.
Over 20 years, so what does a 20-year payout look like, month to month?
Can I, just because Ray and Dave and Ron and I did this 3 times, we included the county information with it. That also outlines all the frequently asked questions that a person considering the water line would be asking. I don't think you can address all the scenarios and costs that a property owner would incur because there's too many variables in the properties. So therefore you have an example. And I think someone could easily take the estimated amount and divide it by 20 years and know their annual cost. But to try to address every property owner's potential liability would be impossible. Everyone's different distance from the street, everyone has different frontage. And a lot of those questions are, and when we did it, were included in the county material.
Mr. Pearl.
Is the tentative 65 parcels a fixed number? Or does that number
On
change?
that, on that example,
Or does it change depending on the direction?
it does change. This is on
Okay.
this one example. Or there's 65
And I'm
parcels.
aware of what 3 options are.
Okay.
Okay, it changes. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a clarification question. I recall some months ago, and I don't remember which meeting it was, that this letter could not go out on county letterhead because it's not part of the 10-year plan. It was something that needed to go out on township letterhead. So my question is it still appropriate though to refer to the county for questions? As you know, there seemed to be a distinct rationale from the county's standpoint as to why it could not come out on their letterhead. I just remember somebody speaking to that a few months ago.
I do know that anybody can call the county with a question. So
Okay,
that's-
gotcha. All right.
Maybe instead of an email option, we just give them a mail option to respond to us, and then we can just scan the letters too.
So don't email them.
I'm just giving ideas.
I think we're more likely to get a response if we have that as an option.
And I put the info email because I thought that way it goes to Suzanne, so it's not going to any of us. It's going right to Suzanne so they can make copies and start a file of everything that they can forward to the county.
So moving forward, those couple small changes that we said,
Okay, so what I have in here, and I will send this to all of you, and I will send it to Jeremy also, just because we are making some changes. What I changed is, the township is currently researching grant opportunities that may lower the cost of the estimated dollar amount to each property owner if any grants are awarded. And failure to respond to this letter will be considered a no by Medina County. Was that,
Wasn't there an option or a conversation about the ability to put in $100? They were in agreement.
that was something apparently that was discussed in previous years with it. Jeremy has said that they no longer take, like that down payment because they're not comfortable holding someone's money indefinitely. What happens is someone submits that $100 and, 5 years later they move. Well, who does the county give that money back to if they've moved? So they no longer do that $100 deposit.
What is overwhelming response? If there was an overwhelming response for residents in favor, what was his?
65.
Then we need to put their 65% of the residents in favor. I didn't think it was 65.
I thought it was 75.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
Huh?
I thought it was a pretty high threshold. It wasn't
Yeah.
50.
It had been 75 in the past.
My notes that I had from him said 65, but I'm gonna send it to him
Yeah,
just to verify before we send anything
he
out.
might have given that range. That might have been the range he gave. Some of it depends on the users, because they were flexible when we were working, trying to get the old elementary school on because of the consumption. So there was some flexibility in your consumption.
yeah, even though it's one property, it's. gonna
Correct, it's
be
weighted.
worth 10.
Churches, those type of users would be somewhat weighted in consideration.
So I just, at the end of that second paragraph, I just added in a new sentence. Medina County is looking for a 65% favorable response rate. Are we comfortable with that?
Why don't you put it, if there was an overwhelming response rate, comma, at least 65% comma, and just confirm from the estimate.
And you might want to say, you might want to clarify. Well, you do list property owner, but you kind of go back and forth from residence to property owner. So
Good point.
you would want to make sure that
Property owner.
it's the property owner.
And the reason that I ask about which direction is because if we're considering a percentage of response, and we know that some of the property owners here have changed, just want to make sure that we have the most updated information. We're sending one letter, for instance, to the 8 parcels over here instead of 8 letters.
I have 2 tiny suggestions on paragraph 2. Medina County on sentence 2. Medina County Commissioners is plural and possessive. I think the apostrophe moves to after the S. And then the next sentence, he agreed, which I'm assuming is the Medina County sanitary engineer.
I don't like
But shouldn't he be named?
or should say the sanitary engineer.
Right.
agreed.
He is just introduced, not who he is. And when we get to the last paragraph, I have a couple comments.
I'm there.
The intent of this letter is to ascertain whether it's to ascertain whether you, the receiver of the letter. Right? It's whoever receives the letter, the parcel owner, is the one who's responding to this letter.
Well, it depends where this letter is going to. Is it going to just the people who would be affected by the proposed?
Yeah, you're
Project.
looking at your project area and then you're mailing it to the property owners.
So then
of
it
the
should
project
be
area.
ascertained whether the property owners are interested, period.
Well, I think
But not
to
others.
Richard's point, yeah, it is. You is the property owner. Your salutation is your property owner.
And also.
Whether you are also interested.
No,
But
is it going to anybody beyond the project?
Yeah.
Then it should just be to whether property owners are interested. Water main extension.
I don't even think you have to put property owners. The intent of this letter is to ascertain interest in water main extension,
There you go.
There you go.
period.
There you go.
Save it on ink.
ascertain interest in the water main extension.
Mhm.
My further comment is I like this letter because it's short and concise and broken into short paragraphs that I can understand. If I got this, I would read it through.
I'm just curious where the cost range between $10,000 to $20,000, depending on the length and difficulty to install the service connection is coming from. The website at the county shows it as inside connection fee of $5,188 and exterior fee of $5,505.
Those numbers came directly from Jeremy because I actually had them higher based on our conversation. And when I sent the letter to him, he put those numbers in, he lowered them from what I had. So these numbers all came from Jeremy. Should I add in here that we will have the options available on our website? Because we don't want to, it's not our intention to have all the options in this letter, right, that'll go down.
It's our due diligence to choose an option and mail it to the appropriate property owners.
That's gonna impact all the numbers also.
Yeah, what did you?
I think you should look at the entire potential project area. And you should mail this letter to all of them. And then if there's a Sandhill chance of getting water anywhere, you'll know it because of your response.
So leave it.
You're
Because
gonna
we're,
send it to everyone in option A, B, and C.
I would.
right now, we're just trying to gauge interest, and this is at the lowest number. So if we don't even get people interested in the lowest number, we don't even have to go back out of the higher one.
Is there any way we can
Right.
designate in the letter somewhere on the bottom corner or something, A, B, or C, so that when they're getting returned, we don't have to go back and determine who owns what parcel, we know specifically which option they were attributed to?
Well, is there a place to put the parcel number? I mean, you can include that on your response, parcel number. Any interested parties, I don't know what the attached document is or what it looks like currently, so. There, I would imagine there's an address and place for address and or parcel number. So it's pretty simple to then determine where
Well,
they are.
and this is
B,
just-
or C.
This is top level to just gauge interest with it, right? The county commissioners are not gonna get this and say, oh my, 75% of them said yes, let's sign it up. They're gonna send out their own letter, right? They're gonna really dig into this and do their due diligence before they're agreeing to anything. So this is just top level of sending it out to gauge the interest. And Melissa, to your point, I was actually thinking differently. I was thinking, and what Jeremy and I had discussed is it goes to every single parcel. So yes, we do know that someone over here, it's the same owner for 9 parcels, but every parcel, because the county is looking at it like this option is 65 parcels. You can't just send one letter for 9 parcels because they'll never get the overwhelming
just
response that they're
asking.
looking for.
I'm asking because those 8 parcels were just consolidated, that we make sure we do our due diligence to get the most recent information, so we're not sending 8 different letters to one owner.
Yeah, we'll get everything from Jeremy once we're,
And a petition
Right.
option was discussed. So I don't know if that's something we want to incorporate,
So what was,
a petition option for the ability to petition
anybody can do that right now.
with the deposit.
That's determined by the county.
Well, I'd like to ask Jeremy about it again, because that was something he mentioned here.
well, I did just speak to him in March about it, and he said they do not take money at the county level. They would rather just have this to gauge interest. They're not gonna take money because it screws up accounting.
I'm assuming that there are, I can say with some confidence that there's likely currently that exists a 30, let's just say 33% petition, because
So I was gonna say, there are there.
the township properties have all turned in their $100, a few other, Jonathan Greensmith, at least on his main property. There are folks that have petitioned over the years, and that maybe where that reference is coming.
Are we sending them to the people who've already petitioned?
Yeah, because there could very well be a new property owner on that parcel.
Changes?
I have one word to insert in the first paragraph where it says, extending an existing water main, but calling it a public water main. Making it clear,
Extending an existing public
public
water main?
water main. It's not a private water main.
How, you bring up a good point. How far and wide are you guys sending this letter? Are you sending it like to Our Lady of Grace Church? Are you
All
sending it?
options.
Well, then that doesn't, then you need to fine tune that, because at or near the intersection of Ridge Road and Center Road. If I had a property, I was Our Lady of Grace, I wouldn't commit to anything because they come to me. According to this letter, so I think you, to your point, maybe you define your project area, which seems to be where the water line ends and where the water line ends and where the water line ends. And then you have to determine how far down 303 you want to go, which is fairly simple. You broaden your range, and then you can narrow it based on the response, if you get required response, appropriate response.
Are we gonna go to Mattingly and see about those folks as well? I know a lot of people in Mattingly have been asking for water.
That's not part of the, options that we were given.
No, but we just said we want to include as many as possible. right?
Well, that was just done about 6 years ago, and we got 2 houses. Because, and again, the same story, the same thing. Everybody wants it. And that's problematic because of the river. Too, but you could, I mean, that's the wide net. But if you got that weighted response from there, you might be bringing the water line from Mattingly to Our Lady of Grace. That might be the only, the only weighted mass you might get. And Ridgemont's tough. Ridgemont's just still a new development that nobody's having water problems. They've all got the wells, they've got their investment in there, and
So this water main the trustees are discussing here, is it going to be straight with no turns?
Depends on the option.
Do any of the options have a turn or a branch? Oh, okay.
Yes, sir. So option A is from the old Skyline Golf Course to just past the old elementary school, and then there's a cross section goes north and then comes down right here, just south of Town Hall, so that police and administration buildings would get that option A.
And when it does go east, it goes to the end of the new B3 district.
Correct.
Okay.
And option B is from the easement at Our Lady of Grace Church, south on Ridge, and crosses over here to the administration and police department. And then there's a cross section. And when I spoke with Jeremy about this, he wants to cross over 303 and Ridge Road in all of these renderings because he wants to be able to have hookup availability if we're tearing up the concrete, the roads, et cetera. He wants to make sure that we're creating the proper infrastructure for future. So then he gauged it that it would had, I think this is just the first address on the west side of 303, and then it would go over again towards the old elementary school.
And again, on option B, are we going all the way to the end of the B3 district?
It's hard to tell. I'm gonna say yes, but Center Road, the actual words Center Road are lying on that line, but I'm seeing a little wee bit of yellow here, so I'm gonna assume that that's a yes. And option C is to bring it down Bellis and then head, same thing, keep it at that little intersection, cross over Bellis or over Ridge, and shoot north on Ridge up into Town Center. And it looks like it's gonna end at roughly 1287 Ridge Road.
1287 is the end of the B3.
That's a good question that I can't answer for you, Mr. Thoreau. I don't know that it is. I don't know. Because this one is such a small rendering in comparison to the.
I'm just trying to evaluate if it doesn't go to the end, is it fair?
well, the other thing to remember is that you all those different options combined is somewhere upward reaching $8, $9, $10 million. I mean, each one of the 4 could be between 2 and 3 million. And as you're saying that, it's almost making me suggest you guys put your example in a separate box. Because maybe option A is 65 parcels. But the whole project area is hundreds of parcels. I'm estimating here, likely it is. But there's no harm, no foul in it. You're gonna get an idea. You cast a wide net, you get an idea of interest.
If I was a property owner in the B3 district and it didn't come to my tree lawn, I would be upset, even if I was against it, or even if I didn't want to connect. I think the trustees have to send it to the extremes.
Yeah, but then the next guy's gonna be upset too. Why didn't you
Well,
come to mine? Why didn't you
he's
come to mine?
residential outside the B3. As soon as you cross the B3 line, it's residential in any direction, correct?
I think the reminder is that the purpose of moving forward on this is because of the survey results from the comprehensive plan audit. And so we were just looking at, looking at option B, C, A, B, and C. It was just ways to bring water to town center. And those are the three options.
And I know that this happened with the court, the court case where the water line did have to get extended. It was going from Mattingly down the ridge up to Boston to acquire the Cleveland lines, but we did tag on a section. We tagged on Mattingly. And so I think maybe you need to get this horse out of the barn. And if you do find that you get your percentage, well, then you can begin to explore in discussions with the engineering requirements of the project.
Right, this
If
is
there's
just a,
loops
this
and
is just a
everything
gauging
else.
process right now. We're,
Yeah,
And I agree with the tag-ons and eventually tuning it for whatever, But I'm going back to that number of 65 or 75. Are you including everyone? All the property owners in the B3?
That's a good question.
That's my question. Thank you.
I don't know if that's.
In this letter,
And it
Are
does
you
say
sending it
estimate.
to all?
we're including everyone that the county identified as property owner within bounds of those projects.
within the bounds of this project.
Right.
I'll try to be clear.
So if that's the case, then we do cover B3.
I'm not one way or the other. I'm trying to make sure I'm trying to help you evaluate what you're about to do.
Appreciate it.
Much.
Any further discussion?
Do I want to take out the near and at the intersection of Bridge Road and Center Road? First paragraph?
are you guys gonna include something in here that shows the entire project, potential project area? I mean, likely what it do is wherever your properties are, your parcel numbers that you're mailing it to, that's what you said along with this box around it.
Where that word, could you say the area around?
You'd have to say the potential.
Jeremy can flip
Potential
up the map.
project area.
Yeah, Jeremy can look up a map and show A, B, and C as one.
And then that's your mailing, that's your distribution.
See, the first paragraph is fine because that's what the inquiry was about. Can we get water up into town center? That was the inquiry. Second paragraph talks about county engineers coming to us with 3 different project options. And maybe in there, flesh that out a little bit more to indicate that maybe the boundaries of it or something. You can put another.
Okay. Well, I'll send it to him and I will copy you both on it so that you see the communication. And then you can add in your 2 cents also if I'm not understanding or if I'm not communicating it correctly. Fair?
All right, employee manual.
The main event.
A long day, Jack.
Here, I said I should be done by 7.
4 hours of commissioners today.
Colleen and I didn't drive together because she said, oh, I have a 12 o'clock in Wadsworth I have to be at. So I'm
No.
coming home.
That's the way, huh? Well, I'll be
Yeah, I
honest
took
with
the day
you.
off.
I have not gotten through the entire employee manual. And I can tell you that I have, but I was hoping to get some of it done today and I didn't have the time to do that. Because the hearing was extended a little longer than I wanted as well.
All right, you have it before you.
Mhm.
Change that I show is on page 6. They took out with or without notice and added in accordance with the disciplinary policy. The objection to that?
Are we going through their changes first and then adding our changes?
Yes.
Okay. That's how I first read it, so I appreciate that.
Next is
Page 7.
page 7, 2.2. With the addition of military status.
Mhm.
And, the 2 paragraphs down. Deleted religious and just put if you desire an accommodation. In the previous portion of the paragraph. Any objections in 2.2?
No.
What's that?
There are changes there in 2.3 that are not noted on the side, just so you know, this is slash hers in that last paragraph.
Right, that was, and I was going to ask you about that. I asked Brian about that. In certain areas, we use their to indicate possessive, their official duties, and he felt his, her was more appropriate. I'll go either way. You guys want to change everything from there to his, her?
And I think we are talking about pronouns in this. I think that was one of our initial conversations, was to use their.
I thought we agreed.
We talked about pronouns, but because, does it stop at his and her?
Well, that's just it. If someone has a different pronoun, like, that would this cover that? So that initial conversation was that the pronouns that we would use throughout the document would be there.
And I looked it up, there can be possessive, and previously it was not considered grammatically correct to use as possessive, but now it is. So,
So we may have someone who doesn't use his or her.
that was, right. So I will change all those back to there, if it's okay, you okay with that?
I'm fine with it.
Paragraph 2.7. We inserted a sentence about firefighters and the Ohio Revised Code. Is it a different animal, and since we protect firefighters?
We talked about this. The part-time firefighters have their own manual.
And that's why the sentence is in here, subject to removal pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, which speaks to that.
But they're not getting this manual.
Period.
Firefighters, no, not at all. They get their own.
The thing is, though, like, but Jen will get this, and any,
But she's not a firefighter. It says except for firefighters who are subject to removal pursuant to Ohio Revised Code section 505.3.
I don't have a copy of the check.
I am so sorry.
I'm gonna make it a hard copy.
But we're gonna keep adapting and I don't want it. I'm too much.
It weighs 52 pages.
I already have two versions.
All right, at the bottom of page 9, the deletion of employment relationship may be terminated by you, the township, was changed to in accordance with disciplinary policy.
I'm fine with that.
Let's see, page 10, 2.8. Third sentence, this is because some personnel files in payroll instead of all. And then the insertion of the employees file are allowed to do so unless required by law. Paragraph down.
I just wonder why we have to have a cousin there.
I'm sorry.
I just wonder if we need to have a cousin there to back to that.
Yes. In the last paragraph, deleted was the accession documents you clearly sign. And by policy township went by president and former employer, they took that whole paragraph out, just changed in accordance with the township's public record policy, which covers that.
I'm fine with that.
Page 12, 2.14, paragraph B. This whole area is just changing, you may not use township email and capitalizing the word internet. So now we move on through all of that to the bottom of page 14. On the return of property. As a condition of being able to use about equipment, the employer agrees the township may withhold the employee's check or final paycheck. He said that is not appropriate to have in there. You would take the appropriate legal action, but you can't withhold their check. 2.15, they changed the title to, they took out the word witness, it's just in the new policy.
Fine with that.
2.16, took out the words and parking lots. Then you can see everywhere in there where he says, yes, it's okay to have a gun. Because the state of Ohio apparently, yeah.
That
Go
was
for it.
One of the things, yeah, that we had.
So any objections to any of that language? It seems to be straight out of legal dictionary.
Is notwithstanding one word or two,
It's one,
there be.
it's one word. Okay. Page 23, paragraph 4.2. Under attendance, we took out deemed to a voluntary resign. His or her employment in the township and removed from the payroll. He said you cannot legally do that. If you can't follow through with discipline in accordance with section 4.3.
And everyone. Okay, I'm fine with that.
And instead of immediately in 4.3, in accordance with township policy.
Oh my gosh, in 10 minutes, we're at page 25. I think this took us
Don't
like
worry.
3 meetings.
All right. It's gonna go
Only
on.
halfway through. Don't jinx us.
Just some
27th.
I don't know, she went crazy with deleting hyphens and putting them back in. So I don't know what that's all about, but there's a bunch of those.
She would use a different color.
Page 29 at the top, second paragraph. Added the word inclement weather gear. And deleted may and inserted will. With the will require return of gear. And deleted the word reimburse. For the cost of the discretion of trustees. So, yes, ma'am.
Since you guys approved the clothing list, does that have any place in this? Because you,
Well, I'm not sure where it is, but it says will provide gear as required.
well, I know you did, but now you don't have any reference to the list. I don't know. Deemed necessary and are listed. You're specifically talking about the service department. That's the only reason I mentioned it.
Yeah. I'll look at that at the end here.
And approved by the
Insertion,
board.
approved
It could
by
say
the-
and approved by the trustees. And I think that would encompass you.
He was not very big on us getting our money back for clothes, you know, you can tell that.
Seems really nice.
Well, I was gonna say,
I was,
I
I don't want it back. That's,
Page-
I don't want that.
It's probably not even laundry. Page 30.
there's a lot.
He defined drugs. I'm assuming from a legal standpoint, which I don't object to that. And the part about, yeah, you can drink booze if it's under a sponsored event, that went away. That's good. Any objection?
Mhm.
Okay, a little bit further down, paragraph A, pre-employment screening. It says, last paragraph, additionally, the applicant for opening must review and sign the township release for alcohol and drug testing. I had-
What does that mean? Did he highlight that must pass drug test to be hired? Is that highlighted or are my eyes? Like, why is that highlighted?
no, Jack has a comment here, ensure addition
Oh, yeah.
to announcements.
Oh,
That's what that's highlighted for.
thank you.
So, I mean, because he's saying it has to be on all announcements, I just put a note in there to remind myself that when I post anything, it has to say that
On our job.
on a posting for a job.
Yeah, okay.
So even administrative staff has to go in for the drug test?
Well, that's what it says on the pre-employment screening. All prospective hires are required to pass a drug screening before being hired. I don't think that's new language. I think that's from drug-free workplace policies. That's even from the original one, it's in there as well.
Yeah. Well, it would certainly be. Could certainly be.
We're not gonna make you get screened. You're already here.
It says pre-employment screening.
Martha's ready to hire her fiscal officer. And she's like, you can work from home.
Good thing it's 25 $5 an hour.
Hires here.
Although this has not been adopted yet, so
Oh, it's in the existing.
either way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It hasn't been.
It's been enforced.
She's like, you hold off.
I need like 10 days.
Will your new person be an independent contractor or an employee?
And what?
And if we're talking about prospective hires, are they independent contractors or employees or both?
No, independent contractors are hires.
They're paid off.
I know, but
They're not,
Why would
they're
we-
not an employee,
why would we do it for one and not the other?
because one's not employed.
One's contracted. It's like if we hired Mr. Pearl to do some energy for us. He doesn't work with the township. We're paying him.
A lot of this has to do with workman's comp, liability, and liability also.
Any objection? Moving on.
Man,
Page 32. He spelled out all the drug testing and handling, retesting.
right in the 34.
Mhm.
So are we changing, all the he, she's on this also to there?
You know, you guys better change your fire department policy manual in accordance with this one. With this,
Testing.
yeah, this whole.
Well, this only took
this
a
whole
year and a
thing.
half.
Start working on it.
If we, I'm just thinking on page 30 where we were talking about the additionally, the applicant selected for an opening must review the policy in second township rules for alcohol and drug testing before taking the test. I feel like that should be highlighted somehow.
Which paragraph?
The last paragraph on page 30,
What did he add it in?
because we want to make sure that they know that they have to sign this before they take the test. And we want to make sure that we're remembering.
We can make that bold. I did note.
Is that, I'm sorry, is that saying, that's not for the initial test though, right? This is meant for anything additional. So once they're already a township employee, like the police are randomly selected to go take a drug test. I'm reading this as it's someone who's already employed, it's not their initial.
So the applicant. I mean, we need them to review the policy and sign it, we all know that, but it's gonna be really important for us to remember they have to take the test before they do, or after. And sign.
So this policy manual is for Kumi, Dave, Suzanne, Jen, and Lynn, and the floor service department here.
And Tom,
And your new hire.
no, Tom, well said.
You know, I love that word may, all prescription, rather than will, may.
Where does the alcohol come in?
It doesn't anymore.
Oh,
long as you're not drunk. You can drink.
There was something in there that said, no alcohol. But if there's a township event where alcohol is being served, I'm
Right,
like,
like a Christmas party, there used to be a Christmas party.
Mhm.
And it wasn't here, it was off-site. But it's their own time anyway. It's not, they're not on clock on our.
So if a trustee representing the trustees goes to, say, the Rocky River Watershed Council annual affair, and they have beer there.
that's why I don't go there.
It's a good thing I don't drink beer.
That's- Then can that employee have alcohol? Representing the township at something that the trustees are membership.
That's a good question, Martha. I don't know that we're hired, we're elected.
We don't have to take a drug test. Right? We just make the rules for
That's
others.
true. Rule, what are rules for thee?
Do as I say, not as I do.
Oh my goodness.
Is this included in the fire department policy manual?
That's a very good question.
I mean, this
don't
is
think I
like,
did.
this is,
Is Pharma designating this at any point?
no, I think it's just standard fare for operations that have a lot more non-union people than we do. I just like the word may. Hey, if we. Our office people aren't even part of the random pool,
No, they're not.
you know that, right?
Yeah.
It's the police and the service. We can't random pool the volunteers. That was always a big, not a problem, but it's always something that come up. Because they respond from home. Now, that may be slightly different because they're scheduled, but that was always our issue when they were unpaid volunteers on call.
Well, it says random testing, certain people may be required. Doesn't say all of them will be.
Where do you see that?
Bottom of page 31, D, random testing positions, which affect safety persons such
Well,
as.
that's why I'm saying, why are
May
we
be
requiring a pre-employment screening for drugs and alcohol when we're not requiring these same people to be part of a random testing?
Because,
I mean, if I'm
because,
applying for a job, I'm laying off the hooch for a while.
well, because of
I don't know about that.
is this on? It's not on.
I'm not regular night. Okay?
Oh, my God.
And she wasn't even at
She
the
wasn't
meeting
even
today.
I watched the whole hearing. When I got work. No, what I'm saying is that, is this a
Oh, they're
functional
dead.
paragraph?
Were they
Is
not,
this a functional
They're
paragraph
we're,
for 5 people? I just can't say it is.
we have the overheads on, right?
Yeah.
What?
Overhead speakers.
But the testing goes up to a previous paragraph again, reasonable cause suspicion. So if you come in and Richard's underneath his desk,
Well, of course. But this is good, I don't know. This-
Martha, it's least common denominator. That's how the world runs.
Okay. Okey dokey. If I don't get someone to do my minutes, so I'm blaming it on you.
Do you really think this is a roadblock to that? Because if it is, that's a concern.
That's a concern for me. I think it's a barrier. I think it's a barrier. I gotta be honest with you. I'm like, what kind of place is this? I'm going for an 8-hour-a-month job. That means that we would have had to have Jackson and Lisa Rushworth go in for a drug screening before we hired them to proctor the meetings.
It would have cost more for pre-employment than you've paid them in the last quarter,
I
is what you're
agree.
saying.
Yeah,
So in.
All prospective hires may be required.
I'm liking May,
I'm not seeing it in the fire departments.
and then it will have to be added.
Yeah, if we do it in one, we have to do it to the other. Do we?
Okay, page 30, paragraph A, pre-employment, all prospective hires may be.
Melissa?
I
No,
like
it's
it.
not.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, those tests are like $36 a shot.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it in there, Martha. So,
I said all prospective hires may be required. Pre-employment screening on page 30. Okay,
Living our life in the maze.
so do we want to keep the sentence that the applicant selected for an opening must review the policy and sign the township release for alcohol and drug testing before taking the tests?
Before taking any test.
Or do we just put a period after release for alcohol and drug testing?
So they can't have alcohol in their blood before they take the test.
No, well, what it's saying is additionally, the applicant selected for an opening must review the policy and sign the township release for drug and alcohol testing before taking the tests. And by test, they mean substance tests, right? They're drug tests. Do we want to remove, pardon me?
Why do they have to be alcohol free?
Exactly. Well, it's a drug screening. I'm
It's a-
sorry, it's not an alcohol.
drug
test.
screening.
It's a-
drug
I keep
screening.
hearing alcohol.
Yeah,
So I'm just,
I think it depends on, well, I think it also depends on the pre-screening test that the township chooses, because you can omit certain, so you're not testing for certain substances.
you can say screen for
So,
this, and this.
Yeah, so
but
we
not for
don't,
Miller Lite. I'm sorry, anything from Great Lakes.
I think the reason alcohol is
Right.
listed is because this policy that would need to be, or the release that would need to be signed is for alcohol and drugs combined. And that's where the word alcohol comes in. The pre-employment screening is only for drugs.
correct. And maybe we just kind of clean that up, that
Well, the reason he put this in is, and why it says before taking the test is, you can't send an employee for a test
before they sign off.
before they sign off, but
Right.
they've read that and agreed to it.
Right,
And they're not even an employee at that point.
right.
They're just.
not until they pass the test.
And then we may hire them. We may.
Let me tell you what they teach to the kids in Dare now. It's not alcohol and drugs. It is alcohol including, no, it's drugs including alcohol.
Well, if the kid had alcohol before, it sure as hell didn't.
She is on fire
Once
tonight,
again,
folks.
fire here.
She is on.
Doing the meeting minutes, watching the meetings.
It's a really lengthy time doing those meeting minutes.
I mean, I drink sometimes when I watch the meetings.
Depends if you do it during happy hour.
I just think that we should eliminate that whole paragraph, the second paragraph in A, pre-employment screening. Because then we don't have to put on all vacancy announcements, must pass drugs test to be hired, which Martha will be quite pleased with. And I think that the second part of that wouldn't apply, the second sentence of that paragraph, which we've reread several times.
So take out the whole paragraph.
I would say that whole paragraph, and the second paragraph of A just needs to go away.
Well, yeah, because once you add in may, or once you take out will
Right.
and do may,
Right.
you don't need that disclaimer. I'm fine with that. Jack?
We're not writing this just for today, we're writing it. And we do require it of service personnel. No?
No, it's never been done, they're randomly tested. They're randomly tested.
Do we do a physical for them?
No. The police and the fire are the only folks that do physical. And the police and the service department people are part of the random testing pool. Because absent Suzanne, those are our only full-time people,
Yeah,
you see?
and Kumi.
Yeah, Kumi.
Well, and Chief Center. And I mean, that was the thing. This language was in the handbook. Do we do a drug test on any of those people? No. Okay. Because I know this was in place when Chief was hired. I don't know about.
This has been since 2008.
Yeah, it goes back.
It's just not been, it's not been.
I mean, like, I'm supportive of it with service. Anyone who is driving township equipment, right? Because that's a huge liability.
And
So,
that's why they are part of the random
right,
testing.
But fire isn't.
As I said, fire has been difficult because they could get called randomly on a day they're not scheduled.
Yeah.
And because of the part-time nature
They
of
could
their
be.
employment, that's always been the issue
Yeah,
that,
they could be called in like a completely different municipality.
correct.
Mhm.
Or they could, yeah, or they could be called in on a day they're not scheduled to work.
Mhm.
It's not so much the drugs, obviously drugs are a great problem, but alcohol testing, they can't. Do you call them in on duty? When you get staffed at the station, do you call them in and have them go take a drug test? And they're not on the call. So, I mean, I don't care what, if that's something you decide to implement, but those have always been the concerns and the barriers.
I honestly, I would just remove I would remove the alcohol and just include the drug. Release for alcohol and drug testing. I mean, we don't need to test for alcohol, drug testing. Because when somebody, now I know not the police, when the police get called or the service, because they have to go right away to get their test done. But for a
That's why That's why
pre-employment,
it says it. Look at the title.
You know what,
Yeah.
why it's in
The
there
title.
is
It says
because if
drugs.
you have
what am I
a
looking
title.
at? Pre-employment.
I mean,
Huh?
you
That's
have
why
to
it
make
says
a reasonable suspicion for someone, because it's happened, where someone's been suspected of drinking on the clock, then they have to sign this too. And release. So it's not like just for pre-employment, it's also for on the clock reasonable suspicion. Or random testing.
Which is
Which is-
covered by the policy.
Right, it's further in
But
here.
I'm just talking about your release,
Yeah,
whatever document you create to be a release.
where is that?
It
really?
has to encompass all these different sections. That's all I'm saying.
Which is in the existing manual, but wasn't imported when she rewrote it for us this,
Yeah.
So there's no release in this one?
not that I saw.
Well, we can type that in. And copy and paste it from the old one.
I think the township is covered for liability through all the detailed random testing, the requirements, everything like that. If I were going to apply for a job, I would certainly refrain. If I knew I had to have a drug test before hiring, it doesn't really prove anything,
Well,
does it?
Drug and alcohol.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, not that I know, but I'm just saying, if I was going to get a job, so I'm not quite sure what its value is, right?
It's pretty hard for me to think about applying for a job.
It does say in the acknowledgement of receipt of employee manual that employee manual, which contains the important information of the township policies, procedures, and benefits, including the policies on anti-harassment, discrimination, substance use and abuse, and confidentiality. We could just add right there, if you wanted to, the alcohol or drug
policy.
Where exactly are you?
The last page of the document is a affidavit that the employee would sign, saying that they understand basically what they've read in our manual.
I think it's just outlined too, 411, drug-free workplace policy, alcohol and drugs. Is what I noticed, if you're working here, this is what's expected.
Maybe that's what we do, is we just say drug-free workplace policy and add it to that affidavit. So it would read that they understand, it says substance use and abuse, but we could say drug-free workplace policy.
Well, see, we need to go a little farther in because there are other comments that are made in here referencing the township's alcohol and drug rehabilitation agreement. I don't know if that's,
That is a true thing.
okay, I didn't see that in here anywhere. Is
Hold
it?
on, let me get back to where we were. We were here, page 31.
No, I think you're on 32, aren't you?
Why don't you just put in compliance with section 4.11 of the non-union employee manual? That encompasses everything.
Okay, I'm gonna step back one. I'm still in paragraph A, pre-employment screening. Is that gone?
Okay, so you're on page 30,
Page 30.
Okay.
Request that you use the word may.
Which I did.
which we did. So can
And
we
then I think
eliminate
you're
this?
covered.
Can we eliminate the second paragraph though? Because then we don't have to put must pass drug test to be hired in all of our,
I would just
Job
say
descriptions.
Applicants may be notified of this policy by inclusion of the following statements
Another
on
May.
all vacancy announcements. Just use the word may instead of will.
on some
And then
vacancy.
if there's a
announcements.
position appropriate where you think you want one, you have the latitude to do so. If there's a position where you feel that
But we have the latitude to do it anyway, because we already said may.
well, that's what I'm saying, but you are consistent in your mays.
Yeah,
You-
And then you need, my opinion, you need that last sentence about signing. Because that's,
In the
he put
event
that
you
in there in the
request.
event you have to, want to administer the test, they have to have.
That's all, just
Okay.
may. Rather than will.
Okay, move on.
may. Applicant may be notified. Do we want to say on all vacancy announcements?
I think it's explicit enough if by using the word may, that in the event this occurs.
Or do we just want to say on vacancy announcements?
You as applicants may be notified of this policy by inclusion of the following statements on all
Do we want to just,
remove the word
That's what I'm
on a vacancy announcement.
Done.
okay,
I was worried about it.
And then if it's a vacancy announcement, we have to change announcements to announcement. Right now it's plural. You see that?
On vacancy announcements.
On a vacancy announcement. Make it singular.
Okay,
Perfect.
announcement. Man, that was brutal.
But now we're just skipping straight ahead to 32, right?
No need to
32.
jinx us.
I was thinking it.
Okay. I don't have anything to offer here. Although I would say on the bottom of page 32, the board reserves the right to require a second drug test on an employee whose retest result is negative or positive. It's possible it's to retest them even if it's positive. What if it's you just are triple checking?
And I would say the township, not the board.
Agreed.
Yeah, I believe early on that the township is identified as the board.
So leave the board.
What, wait a second.
I would just say that we reserve the right to require a second drug test on an employee. Because we could,
Why would you retest someone whose second test came back positive? That's the end of it.
oh, I didn't see second.
It says
No, it says you just reserve the right to require a second.
second
drug
test on an
test.
employee whose retest result is negative. So in other words, they got a negative test. They said, you're in retest procedure here. They say, I'm going to get a retest. I'm paying for it. My retest came back negative. Then we have the option of saying, we want you to go one more time on our dime. But if it's positive, they're done. They would have had 2 positives in a row.
Gotcha. I didn't see that language there, the retest. So at that point, you're testing them 3 times.
If you wanted to.
Number 7, under counseling, before the trustees grant this, do we want to say township?
Or board and keep it the same as it's been.
Okay. Before the board grants this.
And do we have a drug rehabilitation agreement?
We do, that's the one
Okay.
that was approved last meeting.
Okay.
It's a support agreement.
Then do you want to do the same thing in 9? Remove trustees and just swap it for boards?
Mhm.
Before I do that, make sure that he has. It says he didn't do this. Actually, we did. It says use of the term trustees, township, and employer in this manual shall mean the Hinckley Township Board of Trustees.
I just think for continuity, we should try to keep it board or township.
Especially in the same section, because this is all, because
All
it
new.
was,
Retyped by Barb. Cars, even the car club. And then in 10, it's a he, she again. We say if the employee. No, the employee acknowledges that if their work. Continue,
If they continues.
yeah. They continue. And again, Hinckley Township Board of Trustees, do we want to keep? And it's further down in that same paragraph again. His, her, and Hinckley Township Board of Trustees.
Yeah, that's in a lot in this section.
I'll look at replacing those as well. Okay, 4.12 workplace searches. You can see he took all the stuff that we are not allowed to touch. Personal vehicle, parcel, personal handbag, and that.
And that came to us with those suggestions. We didn't add all those in, did we? I don't remember that conversation.
I do not know.
I'm fine with that.
Melissa?
I have no problem with that.
A little bit further down, paragraph C. All electronic information created by any employee or transmitted.
No problem.
And then you see further down as well as on township owned devices, on
Mhm.
township owned. Township trustees.
I have no problem with any changes on that page.
Public relations, 4.18, page 38.
I just really quick on E, it says township trustees again.
Yep. Apparently he felt that was fluff.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Where are you?
4.8, page 38. 4.18.
Well, as I say, 1.8.
No objections.
Page 39, paragraph 5.2. Oh, it's just a period going on. Trustees, let's see, 5.4, 5.5 rather. Workers' compensation. Deleted a whole paragraph about workers' comp law, blah, blah, blah. And it just says workers' compensation administered through the Ohio Bureau of Workmen's Comp.
That's fine. It's
Which is
cleaner.
more
It's cleaner.
appropriate,
Yeah,
Yeah,
cleaner language.
that was a lot of language.
Okay, page 42, paragraph 6.1. I took out the paragraph about if during a leave an employee accepts another job, engages other employment, the employee will be considered voluntary resign. He said you cannot do that. You can't control what an employee does outside of the work space. And if you want to pursue action, you can do so through legal legal process. But you can't just summarily make the assumption that the employee has quit just because they are working something else. Paragraph, let's see, page 44, paragraph 6.4, vacation days. Vacation, took out will and changed it must be taken in the year following your return.
I got some questions on 45.
Well, when we get there, I'm gonna call on you.
Well, you don't have any glue there, so you could just blow right over it.
Yes, ma'am.
You're only stopping the glue. So it's a little redundant, because in that, underneath the matrix for the leave, it's in special circumstances, an employee may be allowed to accumulate and carry over vacation leave for the following year upon written authorization of the township. Then you have a thing, no authority exists for an employee to continue to work rather than take vacation leave and to be paid for hours worked plus vacation pay. We have vacation cash outs every year. They don't use all their vacation, they can cash it out. So are you not allowing?
I think this is speaking to similar to what occurred in the police station where he was on vacation and worked. And
But
when,
I'm saying, where do you, that, what it reads to me is that you can't work and go, I mean, are you able to cash out vacation days? It says continue to work. I guess that's the issue. Maybe continue isn't the right word, or be on shift rather. I don't know what you want to say here, but I don't think we got to worry about Suzanne going on a SWAT call.
you don't know that.
I don't know that. I mean,
There's no
but
way she would do
I'm
that.
just saying, this is a little, it's saying, I know what it's saying to you, but what it's saying to me is something totally different.
I mean, I
Because,
see the last sentence is appropriately worded, but I agree with you. The first can be cleaned up.
because the last payroll or second to last payroll of the year, any vacation hours, the police or service that they either don't want to carry over, they want to cash out, they work their 80-hour week and they're cashing out additional vacation hours. So that conflicts with this language.
How about no authority exists for an employee to work on a scheduled vacation day rather than take vacation leave and be paid for hours worked plus vacation pay? Does that work for you?
I don't even think this line's necessary.
I think it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think it's just.
I've reread
It's
it.
gonna be interpreted 200 different ways. And I would remove it.
Do we say in here that they're allowed to cash out at the end of the year?
Doesn't anymore.
It needs
But
to
you
say
got
that.
in 6.5, it doesn't make sense either, because you talk about payment of accrued vacation leave, comp time and sick leave incentive. And I agree with the sick leave incentive. I didn't, no issue with that. But I do have an issue with, we used to have a minimum amount of comp you could carry over. But what it says here is anybody who's worked here for a year, if they accumulate 200 hours of comp time and carried over, like Bruce, I'll use Bruce Linville, he worked here for 20 some years. If he hadn't had a carryover maximum of comp time, he had to either cash out at his rate of pay for that year. He could have had somewheres up to 500 hours of comp time that we would ever pay him out for, but we have, I can't remember what it is in the current contract for the, but you can look at it in the old contract. And service had a maximum number of comp time that they can carry over from year to year. The rest they gotta pay out at their current rate of pay at that point in time. But what you're saying here is that they can bank that comp time.
Well,
after
in,
1
in,
year.
in, in 3.3 compensatory time, for all non-union, non-exempt employees upon written request of the approval of trustees, no more than 120 hours of comp time may be carried over into the following year.
But why do you have it here that it can be cashed out? I mean, that these aren't aligning. Why is this here then?
That was one of the things that I had
confusing.
said was that, and the other thing is that they shouldn't be so far away from one another in the manual.
Or you can put a reference to that, but right here it says payment of this.
Like an asterisk, see section 3.3 for policy.
Or you could put in accordance with section 3.
But they're only, okay, so read me 3.3 again.
3.3 is,
The 120,
Pardon?
is the 120 increase from the last manual?
I believe it was.
Because
I think it was 80 before.
that's a,
for all non-union, non-exempt employees upon written request and approval of the trustees, no more than 120 hours of compensatory time may be taken over for the following year.
Okay, so that's different than this, because the way I'm reading 6.5
that's just saying.
is that it's basically they're quitting. Upon retirement, receive compensation at his or her current rate of pay for all unused comp time and vacation time. So this
The
is,
6.5 is stipulating what the rate of pay will be for those hours.
But it automatically is. I mean, that's a given. If
And-
someone doesn't even last a year, of course, we're paying them out for their comp time. But
that was why we put it in, because we had that employee
exactly,
that
yeah.
didn't last the year.
Well, we didn't put anything in.
No, that
We-
it fell under that
it-
threshold.
Yeah. We didn't have this extra language here. We complied with the language you have in 3.3. And of course, I mean, if an employee leaves, they're entitled to everything that they're gonna get paid out for everything they're entitled to. We're not going to,
Right. I was just remembering the one employee that had asked about,
well, yeah, his interpretation was
and he hadn't worked here a full year.
correct.
So this is, what page is 3.3?
And I mean, I think, I understand why you have the sick leave incentive in here, because I know that came up in the
With Kumi.
police
Yeah.
negotiations and that's well and good, but I'm not sure you should mix up the others. Because you have them outlined elsewhere, and this is a little confusing. And why 120 hours?
That was to put I'm pulling up the police contract, and if it still says 80, I'm gonna say that we should do it at 80 as well. I'm trying to locate it.
I think there was conversation here with Mike about that. And overtime, is that what we're talking about?
No, comp time.
Comp time.
Well, it's right after
It's-
overtime, 3.3. a pretty big jump. And again, people are going to be compensated for the hours worked. On time is paid out at time and a half, at your current rate of pay. And you're allowed to cash 80 out, but when you got someone here who's here for 15 years, that's quite a big chunk of change.
Well, but it's not so much the 120 hours that are carried over, it's the max that you don't want to have, right? Am I,
It's the amount of money you want to pay out at the final year, at their final rate of pay. You have to keep that at a, I mean, there has to be consideration for the budgets, allowing for retirement of individuals. I mean, you guys, and I'm not saying.
Right, I'm
everyone
saying-
deserves it. I'm just saying that it all can't be cashed out at the highest rate of pay in one lump sum.
right. I'm
Yeah.
saying there needs to be a max on the bank, how much they can bank in there, right? Because we're saying that they can carry over 120 hours per year, or are you saying that's the max, that they can only have 120?
Well, no,
Yeah.
they could accumulate as much as they want over a year, but they have to cash the remaining. Say someone has 200 hours of comp time that they've accumulated this year.
Mhm.
When it comes to in December, based on the former limit, out of those 200 hours, they would have to request that I pay them out a cash out of 120 hours. They can continue to keep the 80 hours, and they could keep those 80 hours until the day they retire. And then those 80 hours can be paid out at their highest rate of pay upon retirement.
So it was 80 and Jim Burns changed it to 120 in the document that was given to the woman who rewrote this for us. So it was 120. Police are currently at 36.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Police are at 36,
36,
and this is at
yeah.
120.
Yeah, you're right. It was 80.
Yeah, so I guess I would have to say I would ask your consideration on the 120. That's,
I would, considering that the police contracts are both at 36, I think that 80 is a reasonable number to.
Agreed.
well, say if you're looking at a $40 an hour job in 10 years, and you're retired, you're looking at $5,000 in addition to everything else.
Right.
Sick, vacation.
Okay,
Right.
so we're doing 80.
We're doing 80 instead of 120.
And I gotta go back down to, what page was that?
45.
Yeah.
Which that's 80 also.
Where else is 80?
6.5.
Wow, we should have had lunch and dinner together. Okay, so now they both say 80.
Correct.
Where's the other?
6.5.
6.5 on
The
page
very,
45.
it's like the last sentence. 80 hours
So
at the end of a
close,
fiscal
7 more
year.
pages.
Oh, that's the sick leave incentive hours.
Yes.
Yeah, that's different than comp time.
Yes,
Jim knows what a sick leave incentive hour is.
Yes.
so in the first paragraph of 6.5, we'll have to change his/her.
Yeah, I said I will go through and address
Okay.
all those.
And then what is our decision on the last paragraph of 6.4? no authority exists for the employee to continue to work rather than take vacation leave and to be paid for hours worked plus vacation time.
Yeah, I mean, according to a timesheet, I'm not paying them for any more than 8 hours for a vacation day anyway.
Let's
So
say
we're
that-
afraid of
let's-
overlap. Is that what the concern is? I mean, that's how I'm reading it. We're afraid of overlap. They're gonna take time off and then still clock in.
Let's say that, let's say a service guy has vacation day on a Monday, works Tuesday through Friday, does a call out on Saturday for snow, or whatever reason. Is he getting paid overtime for that? Is that vacation time turning into regular time and then he gets overtime for it?
Well, they're using comp time.
Yeah, he already used his vacation day.
Yeah.
So then that Saturday is overtime pay. Yeah,
Well, yeah, they have a vacation. I'm sorry, I'm trying to. So say Christmas is on a Friday. Okay. And then they're called in for plowing on Saturday. They're on overtime comp time at that point. They've gotten paid, but if they have to plow on Christmas Day, they're getting paid for the holiday. And then they're also getting comp time because they had to come in on a holiday.
And that happened last year. too.
And it happens all the
Yeah.
time for the service
Yeah.
department. I don't understand, I guess I don't know what the issue is, like why this needs.
this predates me. So I'm,
I.
the only thing I can see is that somebody scheduled vacation day and worked on that day and put in for both of them.
That's why.
And sometimes the service.
It's like you're
department
used to
has
flex, like I would flex my,
Right,
I would flex my time.
it's you
Right.
flexors that are causing issues.
I get what you're
Sometimes the
saying.
service Department does have to do that. I mean, they may take a vacation and they gotta come in and plow,
Yeah,
but they gotta come in and plow,
right.
So are they being paid vacation and plowing?
of course.
Because they already took the vacation day.
Yeah, they're getting paid for a vacation. If they are regularly scheduled for vacation, I mean, interchange vacation for holiday, it's the same thing.
Because what are we gonna do? Deny them the 7 hours that they didn't work? Because they had already applied for the vacation day?
Or are we gonna tell them, oh, you're on vacation, so yeah, we don't need you to plow?
Right, we need them to plow. There's only 4 of them.
There are instances where,
I always go back to big city where I came from, and that was that your vacation could be canceled if, if it was deemed that there was a winter storm coming and you had to show up and report to duty.
But that's just it. These guys, like, I know for a fact that these guys have missed, they've left like father-daughter dances and come in because we need.
Hey, you
our
don't have to
roads
tell
done.
me. I lived the life. I missed a lot of my kids' life. You don't have to explain it to me.
But
I'm just explaining to you outside of this environment what I dealt with. If you want to pay them for vacation time while they're working, have at it. I mean,
I think you're addressing a problem that doesn't exist.
and that's fine. But like I said, I didn't put
Yeah.
this in here.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. But I'm also at the point that if the fiscal officer is okay with it and she's handling the budget, then
And it's
if
different
she's good
here.
with it,
It's different
I'm
here.
good
We've
with
got
that.
4 people. And you got to beg somebody to come in. There has to be something for them,
I cannot recall a situation in the service department or for any non-union employees where anything like this has ever occurred on a vacation. But I could say, what do you want the guys to do? The exact scenario could occur where usually you don't have 2 guys on vacation, but what if they're take a vacation day? And like the big storms we had on Saturday and multiple trees are down over the roads. Are you going to say, don't come in because you're on vacation? Or are you going to say, you know what, we realize you're on vacation, thank you for coming in. Take your comp time.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just trying to think of instances where I think you're solving a problem there, or whoever put this in, not you,
I don't see it in here.
but it's something that isn't.
In the old one, it's in there.
Yeah, I have both. I haven't looked in the old one yet. Why did we take out 5 weeks of annual vacation leave for 15 years of service? Why is that taken out? I've worked here for 15 years, put up with every single different person that comes in and out of these stores.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why that's out of there either when you have.
That was
there's a
because
limit of
that was,
25 days vacation.
that was an automatic insertion from the last one, and I had pulled it out for us to discuss.
It was in the oldest one and the version that Jim Burns touched. I mean, I just don't know how you can take it out after people have been working here for 11, 12, on their way to 15 years, and this has been their handbook. Now all of a sudden, they're almost at 15 years and we're gonna take that away.
We should probably just align with what the cops. have, you know? Be consistent. Do you have a line in here under vacation days that says employees may not accrue more than 25 days of vacation time? That whole vacation is.
I know, I've got it highlighted. I've got it.
Vacation must be taken in the year following the year.
I didn't like it when we did it.
I don't think it's an issue. I mean, I think it can be interpreted.
But I'd like to see 5 weeks at the service of 15 years put back in.
You okay with that? You all right?
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this one because we're talking about how small we are. 4 people in the service department, 2 people in the office. That's a lot of time off for small departments, in addition to the fact that they're also accruing comp time. And that's a lot of time off in a year.
I just don't know how you can take it away from an employee that's so close to 15 years. And just for the record, I think that Chief Sutner has 5 weeks of vacation time and has not been here but maybe 4 years or 5 years.
Well, you have a line for that.
And I know we do, but I'm just saying it's hard.
I don't think it's I mean, I don't think, not that I disagree with taking it away from someone, but our longest non-union employee is, well, Kumi. Kumi would be the one that it would impact. This would not impact Suzanne because she's just hitting her 10 years in October.
I mean, I worked for a company that took a week away. And yeah, nobody's really thrilled with it, but it's what it is.
I think that our staff doesn't get paid a whole lot of money and this is a reason for them to stay.
I don't disagree with that. It would be nice if we could pay them more. So I do not disagree with that statement.
An intangible, as Martha always says, right, Martha?
Should I say that? It's,
Hinckley Township has intangibles that we offer.
I don't.
What do you think,
can
Jack?
grandfather it. You can grandfather it. You want it?
I'm going with 6 people.
You're
Grand
good.
Scheme, yeah.
5.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I don't disagree with anything Melissa said. I was just devil's advocate.
It is a lot of time for small employment. That's true.
But 15 years is a long time to be here.
So you could You can bifurcate it as the only person that's been here longer than 15 years. I don't get any. 23 fires are entitled to 25 days, and after that, we reset it to 20 days or whatever it is.
Well, we're not talking about days, we're talking about,
I'm sorry, no, yes, days.
Yeah, she said 5 weeks, no, and then she said 4. But she used days.
gotcha.
You know, I have to check and see what I'm accruing for Kumi right now.
What?
I'll let you guys know on that, where Kumi's at. Because you may have to exempt. She is the only person impacted, potentially impacted by it.
She's exempt also because she gets the sick leave incentive day. She's the only person who gets it, but she was grandfathered in.
Correct, but I'm saying I have to double check what I'm accruing Kumi.
Right.
Right now, she may be accruing every
Over.
pay period 5 weeks now.
With how many years of service?
Yeah, she could
A
be,
lot.
I just can't recall off the top of my head.
Well, the current manual does say 5, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't want to, though, you don't want to retro as we start reducing her.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
what I'm saying. I'll let
Right.
you guys know.
She would not be happy.
Yeah, well, and it would be pretty nasty.
Right. 6.6, holidays.
Do we decide to eliminate that last paragraph in 6.4?
Yeah, I'm fine with taking that out.
I'm sorry, what are we taking out of
No authority
6.4?
exists for any employee to continue to work. It's the last paragraph.
Yeah.
6.4.
Okay.
6.6, you said holidays?
6.6, holidays.
I looked up the commissioner's holidays.
Well. Director. Revised code stipulates that you must honor these holidays for an employee, barring. So he said we could continue annually to offer it to every employee covered by this agreement and have them sign off and say, we're willing to exchange Columbus Day and Veterans Day for day after Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. He said, but the more prudent thing to do would be to just honor these holidays so that you're not going back and forth. Are we open, we close, we open and close? Honor these holidays and tell them they've got plenty of vacation time and comp time, that if they want those other days off, they could put in for them. I'm inclined to agree with that.
So the commissioners have the day after Thanksgiving on their calendar.
I don't know what kind of agreement they have for that.
As well as Veterans Day and Columbus Day and Labor Day and Independence Day and Juneteenth and Memorial Day, President's Day, and Martin Luther King Day and New Year's Day and Christmas Day. I mean, the day after Thanksgiving is normally a Friday. It's always a Friday. I am inclined just to put it in and give them the day after Thanksgiving. And if they want to do, before, Christmas, I don't know, Christmas Eve, I would assume most people aren't working anyway, but.
Well, I
I
don't want to
don't.
do that because that sets a precedent. Now we're giving police and fire another paid holiday.
Police and fire
I mean,
have their
police-
own contract.
Police rather.
That- they
And
have
you
their own
don't think that
contract.
they'll say, oh, you're giving them 13 holidays?
Yeah, it's a lot of holidays. On top of the fact that I just said, I think that's a lot of vacation time for a small department. I don't think.
So we're expected to open the office here for zoning and admin the day after Thanksgiving, when most people aren't going to town hall.
Yeah, it's what we've been doing all along, right?
No, it's not, which is why it has been in here. That's why I'm not understanding. We've had Christmas Eve and the day after Thanksgiving off, because what we've been doing is giving our staff the ability to say, in lieu of Columbus Day.
Are we open on Columbus Day and Veterans Day?
Yes,
Township is?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
yes. My kids have school on Columbus Day. My kids have school on Veterans Day. So our policy or past practice has been that they have, instead of celebrating Columbus Day and Veterans Day, they've had the day after Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve.
You know what it's been for, with some of the companies that I work for is you get 2 floating holidays. So you get
That's right.
all of these other holidays, and then you get 2 floating holidays that you can use whatever day you want. But then that would mean we're taking out Columbus Day and Veterans Day.
And you can't do that.
He
said
Can't the personal day be used for one of those things too?
Yeah.
Giving a personal day?
Yeah.
So we can't take out Veterans Day and Columbus Day because
Mandated by the ORC.
Or we just keep it simple, and these days are now.
Well, like I said, if we want to draft up a form that every January, we're going into the new year, everybody agree that you want to trade these 2 holidays and have them sign on it. But you have to do it every time because, as long as if there's a new employee, they have to agree to it.
It's been such a long day.
well, then we can do that. It says here in the Ohio Revised Code that the employee is entitled to 8 hours of holiday pay for these holidays. Entitled to the pay, and if they want to float one for the other, they should be allowed to do that.
It says that?
No, it doesn't say that.
No,
They,
that's why he told me I had to put it in here.
well, that's what I just read. They're entitled to 8 hours of holiday pay for these holidays that are listed here. But if we've been giving them the ability to float, which is exactly what we've been doing.
Oh, the other thing you could do is you could revert to what we do for the police department. They're front loaded with their holidays at the beginning of the year. And it's called PTO. And they're loaded with 132 hours and paid for it. That's considered their holiday time, and the personal day and how they use it is up to them.
Effectively giving them a couple more weeks vacation to schedule, is that?
Well, no, I mean, they're 24/7, so some people have to work holidays, some officers.
Well, that's what
take
I'm,
it off
I'd say,
day.
I don't know that you can do that here.
No, you guys can set when your office is open. Your office is closed and
Right.
employees aren't coming in.
Right.
I mean, not that I want to take anything away from the service department, guys, but if you have that system, then in essence, a holiday wouldn't become an opportunity for time and a half.
I mean, it just happened to me last week. I was going into Brunswick to get my daughter's income tax because she works at Chick-fil-A in Brunswick. I walked up to the door, door said, office is closed. It was Good Friday. They closed the office.
I'm not saying I want to do this because it's more work. I'm just saying this is how it happens. The police department.
Right. My first choice is with the holidays in it as are, tell them if they want those other days off, take it. My second choice is
do a sign up at the beginning of each year. I can do that if that's what you want to do. We'll trade these 2 holidays for these 2. Please sign here indicating your approval. The other stuff sounds like way too much work on everybody's part. For you to try and schedule around it.
Whatever works, whatever.
It just seems like it's always been very simple. You know, and Ray would say, we're gonna shut down the office. That's it. Everybody's taking off that day. It's the, you know, the day after Thanksgiving, nobody's coming into town hall. Everybody's out doing family stuff or traveling or whatnot, shopping. We're just gonna shut down the office. That's just how it was when I was brought in. It was simple. We say we're a small town and we're rural, you know, people have been able to adapt to those shutdowns. And they don't happen very often. But I think that our citizens have become accustomed to them. The day after Thanksgiving and on Christmas Eve. Not coming in with their zoning permit.
So after the list of holidays, I can put a paragraph in there that says annually, employees covered by this manual will be given the opportunity to exchange Columbus Day and Veterans Day that year for day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve. Does that work for you?
Sure.
Okay. Monique?
Okay, well, I feel like if you're doing that, you're changing the mandated days to, I mean, why the day after Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve? You know what I mean? Like I
Because
was,
that's the way it's always been. So
well,
you've got staff that are accustomed to it.
well, but you could also leave it open, so it's a floating holiday, so that they can choose it instead. I
Well,
mean,
see,
now,
The reason I don't want to do that is that impacts scheduling.
Right. We're not-
Impacts, you know,
Exactly.
now you're, okay, well, the office will be closed this day. Service guys won't be here on this day. 2 of them won't be here. One's gone this day, one's gone that day. It's just another day to schedule around.
And the
Mhm.
offices are closed, President's Day, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, Labor Day. You know, the 2 floating Columbus and Veterans Day makes sense because, like I said, the kids are in school. These are not,
I would just rather follow Ohio Revised Code.
well,
I
you
mean,
are.
we're,
Which
You
that
are.
would be, if we, but we still would have the latitude to give them the option.
if that's what you guys want to do, that's fine.
Another intangible.
Page 47, last paragraph, above 6.8. Employees who are affected by pregnancy disability. Didn't know that was a disability, but that was inserted. 6.8,
I think it is part of the ADA.
I'm sure it is.
Mhm.
They deleted for information about FMLA, contact township fiscal officer to time will be taken in accordance with federal guidelines.
Perfect.
I'm taking things off your plate, Martha. Page 51, 6.14.
Page 51, 6.14.
Page
I still
51.
have to do the FMLA business.
Yeah, but we
even
did,
though I'm not
we're not
named.
advertising your number anymore. That's all. Employees with a spouse, registered domestic partner, parent, they took out the word serving. So I'm deferring to them on all this because they're the legal authority relative to military family leave.
Yeah, I feel like they've just cleaned all of this up.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
I have no problem with it.
Page 52. Second paragraph, I specifically understand and agree that if I am not a firefighter,
Are we coming back to that?
yeah. And you're saying firefighters have their own manual.
They do. I can email it to you.
Okay,
So just delete it.
I will talk with him and take out the, any references to firefighter.
And that's the only thing I would change on this page.
Okay, now you have additions you wanted to make?
Can I ask how many of these we have? Because I may need a recess.
I was gonna say, you know what, honestly, it's almost 9 o'clock. And as I stated earlier, I was able to go through it and make some edits to it, which most of them are grammatical in nature, but I have many of them. I don't know that I think it's necessary to go through them all tonight.
Okay, well, why don't we take our homework?
It's our homework.
Read.
Next time if we bring dinner in,
We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
thank you.